Coming up this week on Wrestling for the Culture, Mercedes Mone has called out some men in the industry. Not particularly directly particular men, but just men overall. I'm here to tell you why she's right. Plus, Maya World continues to rise up the ranks. Is she the next ROH Women's Champion? Plus, Jade Cargill, is she smitten with B-Fab? All this and more in this week's episode of Wrestling for the Culture. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of Wrestling for the Culture. I'm your host, Brian H. Waters. This show, of course, is brought to you by the Wrestling Realm. Now, before we get started with today's show, I just want to remind y'all, if y'all out there looking to go to WrestleMania, perhaps you're a baseball fan like me and you know opening day is around the corner, you can save money by using the promo code SeatGeek. So make sure you do that. Just use Wrestling Realm code. You save $20 on tickets at $50 or more. Also, this is a little free promo. Y'all know it's tax season. So I went to Sophie's Tax Prep. Second year going there. She took good care of me. She is family. So I'm going to put a link in that description. There's no kickback or anything like that, that I would get, but I want y'all to know about it because quite frankly, she did my taxes. She made sure everything was safe and secure. And it's, she made sure you won't get audited. And they got you. They got you covered over there. Folks, I was sitting there looking through stories and it's been a busy week. I was at Pro Wrestler R this past weekend. I'm not at liberty to share the results just yet, but what I can say is I showed a clip. Krista B was there on commentary. Krista B of Those Wrestling Girls. Y'all know who she is by now. If you watch this program, she's been on here quite a few times and she did a phenomenal job in her commentary debut. So I'm looking forward to seeing her do more. Afterwards, I was going through what's been happening over the weekend. Now, I did see that the one and only Mercedes Mone did lose another championship. She actually lost 2 of them over the weekend. I was looking this up. She is down to 5 titles, which is okay because guess what? Like we said, she has put women's wrestling on the map. But this recent championship loss happened when she lost this was a title for title match. She took on the one and only Mila Schmidt over in Frankreich. So that's over in France. And she lost. But you can see she was very emotional. Now she would lose her EWA Women's Championship, So it was a title for title match. Mercedes came up short, but now people know who Mila Schmidt is. And, Mila Schmidt, I'm sorry. Like I said, that's what I've noticed without this whole run is that Mercedes has been putting on and putting over companies and putting over other wrestlers, So they're saying she may have been like a transitional champion for a lot of these. But if I had a wrestling company and I had an opportunity to have Mercedes Mone a part of that lineage, I would do so. Since I'm over there, I'm going to also let y'all know Ricky Sosa, who wrestled at TNA and was victorious this past week, also would wrestle and he defeated Joe Lando. So we saw Mercedes over there taking pictures with Ricky Sosa, with Kuro. So shout out to her, just making her way around the wrestling world. So as you know what people say, you love to see it. Mone was on the Sackhoff show with Katie Sackhoff. And, of course, she talked about all the projects she was doing. And the conversation came up with women not getting paid equally. Now, I never understood why this has always been an issue, And what I mean is, why can't women get paid equal as men if they're doing the same job? Now, if y'all try to clip that, I'm going to make sure I find the other part of the clip. But I never understood why people had an issue with women getting paid the same thing as men. Well, Mercedes went on to say, she went to talk about women do deserve to get paid as much as the men. And, obviously using her platform, she's been able to, in some cases change that. When she went to AEW, there was all this discussion about, Mercedes is over there. She got her own locker room. Well, guess what? She deserved it. We all know when she showed up on AEW Dynamite, there were people who came over from overseas to see Mercedes make her debut in Boston. But, when we talked about what's holding women back, she said, one, they proved their value in ratings. They proved their value in merchandise sales. But I want y'all to hear this clip because she talked about the biggest roadblock being men, these men. I want y'all to hear that before I talk about it.
What do you see as the biggest roadblocks for that?
These men. It's just these men. I feel like that's just the biggest roadblock. It's just sometimes we prove it so often, but it's never consistent with them. It's like, okay, let's give them a bone. Oh, they did great. Don't let them be better than us. Oh, we got to take our bone back. It's letting them know it's actually okay to give us the same respect and time, and not to take that bone back, but to let us keep it and to consistently do it every single week. Not a little pity patty on the back being like, okay, you can have this, main event just this month, but next year it's about us here. And, it's just, I feel like it's just consistency that we have to show men all the time.
Now, here's the thing about Mercedes, right? I don't think she's wrong. And here's why. As somebody who's worked in women's wrestling, worked with a lot of women in wrestling, right? I've seen the men get jealous. I've seen a lot of times, especially wrestling couples who don't last. It's usually in a lot of cases, the men get jealous over the women, because most of the time it's not like it's, it's not like you got, for the sake of this conversation, right? It's not like you got Roman Reigns dating Liv Morgan where they're kind of on equal footing, right? Now you look at somebody like Seth and Becky, right? The greatest wrestling power couple ever. Sorry, Miz and Maurice. Sorry, CM Punk and AJ, but I bring up Seth and Becky because these are two people who you've seen reach the pinnacle on the same night. Now, Seth Rollins was so upset that he wasn't going to main event the show. This is what Becky said in her book. And then he went back and apologized because he realized, okay, yeah, he wasn't going to main event, but Becky was, So that's a night where it's kind of proven like, hey, women can draw, because everybody was hooked into that story. And I think the issue has always been the way the promoters and the promotion, they would like to say, oh, women's wrestling isn't drawing. Well, I think if you treat it like wrestling, right? Let's just not say, oh, because they're women, and treat it like professional wrestling. Treat it like the story. I saw a post and I shared it on Facebook, and it was like the women saying, asking the male commentators, stop thirsting, stop making, sexual gestures when they're wrestling. We all know they look good. And do they want to be sexy? Yes. The men do the same thing, but when women are on commentary, you don't hear it like that. They're doing their job, because if they did, y'all would accuse them of sleeping with the wrestlers. So there's none of that action happening. So, it's very frustrating that, you don't get that same equal promotions and stuff. And I've always said, like, if you promote the women's wrestling matches equal, you can do that, and you will see that it can draw money. I mean, CM Punk said last year, the night he main evented WrestleMania, the night he was chasing that one moment he had been chasing for years, he even said the best story was EO, Bianca, and Rhea Ripley, and that deserved to be the main event. And so I'm glad that Mercedes, I did see a lot of people pick this up, and I had to double check. I'm gonna be honest with you, I saw it on Ringside News. I'm like, all right, let's see if this is real. And I went and found the clip. And I was like, I wonder why a lot of people aren't picking this clip up. Usually men ran sites don't want to admit that. But nonetheless, shout out to Mercedes Moné, everything she's doing in women's wrestling and everything, you know, and I'm enjoying it. I'm a fan, and I love seeing her go to work. Let's move on to this other title of the show, Maya World. Maya World, I'm a fan of hers. Also, she's a Ravens fan. Shout out to Maya World. But I'm a huge fan of hers. Been watching her. Got a chance to see her for the culture I mentioned several shows ago. But, you know, Maya World, y'all know the story. She had her and Hyon had a match at AEW. They was, supposed to be brought on, and they were, brought on as, some talent that was being scouted. And two ladies said, we're not going to wrestle that match. It doesn't make sense. Maya World, Hyon stepped up, earned themselves a contract. Well, she took on the one and only, the forever ROH Women's Champion, who held the title well over 1,000 days, Athena. And the two wrestled to a 10-minute time limit draw, which means Maya World gets a future opportunity for the ROH Women's title. Now, you look at that championship, right? Now, y'all know what I've been saying about Athena. I want to see Athena as an AEW Women's World Championship champion. I want to see Maya World be the one to take Athena down. I think that Maya World is ready to be the Ring of Honor Women's World Champion. She got the in-ring skills. She has the charisma. And I think that when somebody who takes out Athena, they're going to have the pressure of upholding the standard set and putting on great matches, telling great stories, making Ring of Honor must-see TV, making people want to see the women's championship matches. And I think Maya World is the person to get that done. So will Maya World be the next Ring of Honor Women's Champion? We shall see. Also, a huge congratulations to her, as she was added to Reality of Wrestling's Wall of Fame, there where they have all the alumni. You got so many greats have come out of there, including Athena. Also the Usos, so many greats have come out of Reality of Wrestling. So shout out to her. It's one of those things you just love seeing it. And I always say women's wrestling is in such a great place. That's why it's never forced like, I got to make sure the show starts off with the women. I got to make sure this happens. No, women's wrestling is a great place. I'm happy to be a fan. I mentioned Mercedes Moné. She held a free women's wrestling seminar. You see what she's doing. You see what Bailey's doing. You see what Natalia's doing. They are making sure the women's wrestling craft is held up to a standard where, just 10 years ago, they were having Give Divas a Chance. 20 years ago, the women were only allotted 4 to 5, maybe 6-minute matches. And most of the time they say, this is in WWE, of course, but they would say, nobody wants to see y'all wrestle. Just go out there and catfight. And you had places like a Shimmer, TNA Wrestling. You had all these other places where the women were putting on phenomenal matches. So let's get it. Let's move on. I mentioned Hyon earlier. She came up short as Red Velvet continues her reign as the ROH Women's Champion. She was victorious. Also on that ROH show, Shane Taylor Promotions was victorious, holding on to the trios championships. Carly Bravo, Shane Taylor, Sean Dean, the captain, with Anthony Ogogo, defeating Aaron Solo, Nick Camarato, and QT Marshall. Let's move on to SmackDown. Oh, man. Michin and Jade had a match. We all know it wasn't said on television, but Michin was injured during the holiday tour after a match with Jade. Well, she's been never one to back down from a fight. Obviously, you look through this channel, you see multiple interviews with Mia Yim. But she's never been one to back down from a fight. But what's so interesting is she came up short. Rhea Ripley comes out there trying to say, yeah, good job, buddy. And Jade, call her a TNA name. Michin wasn't having it. She didn't care. Like, no, don't gas me. I didn't win the match. That didn't happen. I don't need to hear your pity party. And I was like, whoa. And even B-Fab was like, look, I'll calm her down. Now, what was interesting? Later on in the show, I know y'all saw this, it was a promo. Now, and then back, you see Jade Cargill and B-Fab holding a conversation. Some are calling it Baddies 2.0. I don't know. I do think this can lead to a Michin B-Fab matchup that will be, have a little blood feud that'll be set for the SmackDown Go Home show for WrestleMania. But I do see B-Fab now turning on Michin. And, she'll line herself with Jade. Jade might need a little bit of extra help. She may need her little Arn Anderson. We've seen this Dana Brooke in that role with Charlotte Flair. So how do y'all feel about that? Also that night, Damian Priest and R-Truth continue their winning ways, number one contenders for the tag titles as they defeated Los Garza. The Irresistible Forces, they defeated and successfully held on to their tag team titles, defeating Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. But the biggest story was the Bellas. Bellas coming in there. So I've been saying I think the Bella Twins should be the women's tag team champions. Not yet. I want to enjoy the Irresistible Forces, but I think this is setting up for some sort of multi-women tag team match at WrestleMania 42. And then the main event, Trick Williams scoring the biggest win of his career, beating Jacob Fatu. Look, he took advantage of Drew McIntyre when to come out there. It was funny how it got started. He heard Jacob say, I'm going to whoop something. He's like, whoop what? And it's like the moment you see a camera, anytime you see Trick Williams, he is a full-fledged character. He has proven why he is Mr. Lemon Pepper Stepper, why he has something that you just can't teach. He's got it. So let's move on. AEW Revolution. Now, we did see the Babes of Wrath lose the tag team titles, but Willow Nightingale is still your TBS champion as she defeated Lena Cross. Swerve Strickland, a brutal match with Brody King. He was victorious, a win that he needed, quite frankly. I would like to see, we saw Kenny Omega come out there, so I think that's going to be a feud that continues before Swerve finds his way back to the title picture. But then Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey and Mystical are now your brand new AEW Trios champions. Jetspeed wins the titles, defeating the Don Callis family, Kazuchika Okada, Kyle Fletcher, and Mark Davis. So, like I said, Kevin Knight, watch out for him. He's been doing this thing. Glad to see him wear gold again in AEW. So, quite a few new champions to announce. Let's start with the homie, my brother, and my daughter's former coach, the one and only Chaz The Don, is your inaugural Fight Club Young Simba champion. He cashed in Trick or Treat. Now, I got to get the full story. Maybe we get Chaz on here because I did see, they said it's pure ignorance and trouble. I saw his brothers out there looking. I saw pictures of his brothers not looking so happy. So I'm going to get the full story on that one. But yeah, congratulations to Chaz The Don. Also, Shaq Jordan became the Wrestling League official heavyweight champion. In addition, we saw Charity King add more gold. The Ashe Women's World Champion is now also the 7th ever New Texas Pro Women's Champion. So congratulations to Charity King. Speaking of people adding gold, speaking of Ashe Wrestling, the one and only, the All-Father, Darius Carter defeated Mikey Montgomery to become the Enjoy Wrestling Champion. Also on that card, we saw Lee Moriarty defeat Darius Lockhart. You saw them shake hands respectfully. And then also the Darius Carter, his homies, TME, Duke Davis, and Gannon Jones Jr. successfully hold on to their tag titles with a victory over the Outrunners. And adding gold to her resume, the woman with the golden voice, Miss Shalonce Royal, is your brand new OVW Women's Champion. Also, action-packed wrestling in South Carolina. We got new tag team champions, Black Cat Johnson and Trent James Pro. Huge congrats to them. Let's go to Winnipeg Professional Wrestling, where Devon Monroe is the 2026 Winnipeg Professional Wrestling Men's Voyageur Cup winner. So big deals happening over there. So also, like I said, it is a lot. The Lethal Injection crew, they had a big night where we saw Ace defeat Jay Lindsey, Junior Lindsey, and then we also saw Donovan Lowe and Bugs Moran win the tag titles. So huge congrats to them as they snatched a few championships. Rio, she announced that Progress will hold the first ever Women's Strong Style 16. So
Progress, they decided to listen to you all for once. And next year, we have a women's...
That's what I'm talking about! Let's go! LFG! 2026!
I am excited. More than that, we will, as we figure out who will be in it, we will definitely be covering that. And she also retained her fourth rope championship. So congratulations to her. Roddy Savino, I hope I said that right, Suavino defeated Lex the Radical. And here's a word, because the congregation spoke this past week. So y'all check this out.
Ladies and gentlemen, my guests at this time are the defending NCG Tag Team Champions, the congregation. Gentlemen, you just went through a ladder match for the first time for the NCG Tag titles against Dynasty. You guys came out victorious. What are your thoughts, first of all, as remaining champions?
What are our thoughts? Roddy, tell this man our thoughts, please and thank you.
Our thoughts are clearly that this was God's plan. We knew this from the start when the match was announced. We knew that tonight was going to be the same way we thought it was going to start. And tonight there was no different. God's plan was for the congregation to climb to the tippy top of the praise mountain in a ladder match, grab those titles, defeat Dynasty, and continue our holy reign across NCG.
Yes. Speaking of that holy reign across NCG, we had some Midwest misfits out there trying to distract us. I said distract us from our match, but it can't happen because God had a plan for us, and that plan was to climb that stairway to heaven and retain these tag team champions of the world, because when the church bells ring, yes, the choir will sing. And still NCG Tag Team Champions of the World, the Anointed One, Radis Favino, the Holy One, Father Marquise, the congregation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that will do it. And like I said, big week. Also, like I said, I can't really share what happened at Pro Wrestling R, but I definitely have to say I had a good time. And then I saw that the next day at Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Prolific became the tag team champions, Isaiah Wolf and Tyree Taylor. Y'all know Isaiah Wolf was just here a few weeks ago. So in addition to holding, or is he still, the Pro Wrestling R championship, he also adds the Blood, Sweat, and Tears tag team championships to that. The Miracle Generation, Sean Knight, Colin King, and Dustin Waller defeated Above the Rest, Gabriel Sky, Kuro Kwan, and Bobby Buffet. I also got to see Bobby Buffet wrestle for the first time in person. He was on the Monster Factory and he, definitely took off. We covered that on the Ringer. So I got to see him wrestle for the first time. So, definitely entertaining. I can't wait to go again. Would love to go to Ashe this week, but I'm going to have to watch it because it's a lot of stuff going on and a lot of stuff that's happening with my family. So, thank you everybody for all their prayers in the loss of my cousin. But thank everybody for joining me this week on Wrestling for the Culture. Make sure you tune in next week and keep sending in the results, folks. Tune into the Wrestling Round this Wednesday night. We out.